Sallar Faridi from Plug and Play here in Hamburg. Welcome. Good to have you here, Sallar. I think you had a split session, kind of last mile and finance. Sounds interesting. What were the startups that presented there, and what did they tell you?
Thank you for having me first. We had three very different startups. Two in the last mile area, which was one was Ananau, a young startup from Switzerland, who was trying to build up a courier network within Switzerland in order to provide basically an instant delivery of about 32 minutes. They're trying to achieve that by creating a huge network of kind of freelancer or semi-professional and professional delivery couriers. The second startup was a very interesting startup, which I wouldn't consider as a classical startup anymore, a 4-year-old startup called Stuart, founded in Paris and already making over 120 million euros of revenue, and actually been acquired by DPD. Providing last mile delivery solutions for retailers, for pharmacies, for many sorts of they have the retailers, they have the pharmacies, they have many other kind of delivery options, also the classical delivery options like for documents, for example. They have their own fleet. They are trying to consider a little bit the topic of being more doing the more sustainable approach in terms of deliveries and having electric vehicles, paying above average salaries to the employees. I think they have over 350 employees in general, and then a huge network of couriers as well. And the last startup is a startup which is not at all in the picture and in the area of these two, which is Marvest, a young startup from Hamburg, which is approaching a market which has been neglected after the crisis quite heavily, especially by private investors and by banks especially, or actually more by banks than private investors, which is the ship finance market. And they are trying to build or to provide the first online tool for crowd financing of ship investments. It's basically tranche investments. It's up to 8.5 million euros or 8 million euros, because with 8 million euros, you are still not in the, or basically it's not obligatory to provide a prospectus.
I mean, with the last mile, I think there are a lot of startups going into this field of logistics, and we've seen so many over the years. Probably you have seen thousands all over the world. And I found it interesting that Stuart said, well, they had to really select how they wanted to do it, not only, let's say, food or anything like that, because I think they said, okay, if we do food, it's only going to be lunchtime and dinner or something like that. From your point of view, which are promising concepts within this last mile field?
You mean concepts in order to approach to certain players or participants, or in general in terms of like delivery options? In general. I think, to be honest, I like the approach of having a little bit of a broader approach to this topic. So we are having this issue that obviously the city centers are polluted, not only by pollution of the huge trucks and cars, which is going to be banned more and more in the next years, but also polluted or kind of congested by the traffic which is existing, which is not only because of the cars or the trucks, it's because of everything, the increasing number of cars, the buses, the drivers, the people walking around the street. I think if we are looking at last mile, we have to look at multiple kind of areas. We have to look at the delivery, we have to look at the storage, like do we work with hubs, do we work with kind of or stations, not stations, but like kind of alternatives in terms of delivery options, like do we provide, for example, shared cars in order to deliver the product. It has to be a whole package, in my opinion. So we have to just look at we have to look at the whole infrastructure itself, than only at one solution like couriers, like electric vehicles or warehouses. So it's a little bit more.
And the finance idea with Marvis, do you see that as a promising idea? I mean, to go into this field again, which was pretty much down and flat over the last couple of years?
So the finance idea is a very, very brave idea. The reputation of the finance market, the ship finance market, has been ruined completely after the crisis, especially because due to the funds been kind of going through these retail investments or retail investors and approaching like usual people like you and me being able to invest via our banks, for example. These kind of people usually have lost everything what they put in, which could have been their savings. It was attractive during that time because of a certain tax model, the KG model. Now, Marvis is trying to kind of rebuild the reputation on the one hand side of this financing market, and also give an option, because as the banks have exited completely, there's still investors like family offices, for example, and also like people like you and me who would like to kind of invest maybe just small amounts of money into certain options. They're doing a lot in order to make this attractive again. And I think there's no other way than kind of approaching it from the digital side, because every other channel is quite dead. And the next investor is coming on the digital.
All right, so I think interesting approaches also in those last sessions. Sallar, thanks a lot for reporting. Thank you very much.